pointless sink in the hallway when there's another sink just right there. Just literally. This is gonna be the most informative video that I ever do. Okay, it only took one person saying, "Show me how to do this," for me to get a brilliant idea to film a makeup tutorial. Apparently it's 2015 again. I've been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I just really enjoy it. I really like makeup. I think people who can do makeup are just amazing. I think the talent is just incredible. I am not a makeup artist. I don't wear heavy makeup all the time to go out. The only time I ever do heavy makeup is when I am in my room and I'm bored. And most of the time it's at 11:30 p.m. and then I don't go to bed until about 4 a.m. I'm going to attempt to teach you the things that I have learned and the tips that I have learned. And I have learned everything that I have learned from drag queens and makeup artists on the internet. First, we're gonna talk about primer. This is everything of my makeup that I don't use on a daily basis. There are like 300 million types of primers, honestly. There's mattifying, pore filling, glittery, there's all kinds of primers. Today, we're gonna use POREfessional, which is pore filling primer, and it also gives you very like airbrush. I never actually explained what primer does like I intended. Primer is for the skin under your foundation. So if you're using something like an illuminating primer, it's going to make your skin very glowy and dewy, and the foundation that you put on top of that, it will kind of take on the texture of your skin and the glowiness of your skin and help it stay on longer. Almost all of the products that I own have come from Ipsy, because they're like pretty decent sized products in an Ipsy bag. I highly recommend it if you can afford it for $12 a month. After primer, you're gonna go in with foundation. Foundation is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people use it. Powder, cream, liquid. I don't really wear foundation very much. I only use it, it's very rare that I use it. I'm gonna use this like little tiny IT Cosmetics CC cream. Don't ask me what it means because I'm not gonna know the answer. Google is free. So I'm gonna use the back of my hand and just put just a little bit, dot it on my face. I did not put enough, oops. I'm just probably gonna cake it on there because just for fun. You know, have fun with it. I'm gonna tell you about sponges, okay? I have two sponges. This is what they look like dry, and this is what they look like when they're wet. It won't turn pink. I bought this pink. Failed to mention, when the sponge is wet, it will double in size. This is a dry sponge. This is a wet sponge. You should always use a wet sponge because it will blend better. It will look more flawless, and it just will apply easier. It's easier to do if it's wet. If it's dry, it will kind of like pull on your skin and then it'll soak up the product and it won't look as good, and you're better off using a wet sponge. My what's the word? My recommendations are what's on the slide? A Real Techniques, oh. Is it will focus? Does iPhone do that? What's on it? Oh, it's foundation. This is a Real Techniques. This is a Real Techniques. This is a Real Techniques sponge. You can get Real Techniques pretty much anywhere. Target. I think Target. Maybe Target. Anywhere you can find like makeup stuff, most of the time they're gonna have Real Techniques. And also this is an e.l.f. sponge. I actually prefer this one over this one, and this one's cheaper. When you're blending it in, never drag okay? We're doing drag, but you never drag the sponge. You want to tap it. Or as they say, dab it. I'm 23. If you're using dry foundation, don't use a wet sponge. I feel like that's self-explanatory, but at the same time, it may not be. Next thing we're gonna do is concealer. There's all kinds of concealers in the world. Some are really good, some are not really good.
Some are really expensive, some are really cheap. Sometimes the cheapest ones are the best ones, in my opinion.
These are e.l.f. You can literally buy e.l.f. pretty much anywhere, and I use two. One is the shade of my skin to help conceal redness, dark circles, spots, and then one is really light to highlight. But what I do is I take the one that's my skin tone and I apply it where my problem areas are. I wet my sponge again because it kind of helps blend out your product better and kind of helps it.
Okay, I'm gonna save myself. Wetting your sponge for a second time if it starts to get a little dry helps the product blend better so you don't ruin the makeup underneath it.
After you do that, you can go in with a lighter concealer. In the corner of your eye, on your cheekbone, and a little bit under. And then you blend. This is bringing parts of your face forward, and when you contour, it kind of pushes them back. So like, see how this looks more like alive and this one's a little bit more sunk in? This one has highlighter, this one doesn't. Contouring and highlighting is like basically reshaping your whole face. Like, it's a facelift for free if you do it right. So once you have that done, you go in on your nose, your forehead, on your nose, your forehead, and your chin. Typically I don't do it on my chin. I'm not a fan of my chin. Pretty self-explanatory. Just blend it out, and then same with your forehead. Okay, so before we move on to any kind of contouring or anything like that, I'm going to explain the importance of powdering your face. Anytime that you apply cream foundation or liquid foundation, if it's not powder, you have to powder it after you apply it, because if you don't, it will transfer onto clothing. If you hug someone and your like face touches them, it'll like get on them. It'll come off throughout the day. Stuff will like slide off if you're like sweating. It won't look the same, if at all, look like you have been wearing makeup if you don't powder. There are so many products out there. Right off the bat, my top recommendation for inexpensive makeup brands for makeup and brushes, right off the top, is e.l.f. And then just a little bit more expensive is NYX. And NYX is just like a step up from e.l.f. e.l.f. ranges between like $1 to $10. Sometimes they get really expensive, not really. And then NYX goes from about $10 to about like $30 to $40, depending on like what you're getting. So like most of the time, like concealer from NYX is like $10. e.l.f. is about $5. Powder, you can pretty much buy a powder from anyone, but I use these two. They're samples. Ipsy. I swear by this powder. Oh my god, it's so good. For my under eyes, I use this stuff. This is called Lock It Translucent Powder. It's like kind of expensive. So I have to be very careful with it. But for my under eyes, I use a really small brush and I apply it under my eyes Another thing is just to lightly dust over your face with a setting powder. And for this, you don't want a super stiff brush. You want something that's fluffy, so that way it doesn't like ruin the foundation that you have under what you're putting on. So now I'm going to explain to you what baking is, okay? I'm only doing this because I'm kind of recreating a picture that I posted. I'm basically recreating that whole look that I did, and so I'm doing exactly what I did in that picture. Baking is optional. I don't do it hardly ever, but baking will set your product in for good. So what you do is you take the sponge that you used, it can be wet, and you apply it where you put concealer, or if you want to do it all over your face, you can. I just do it under my under eyes, because it also kind of adds a highlighting effect as well. And it also helps you get a sharper edge on your contour. We'll get there. So I'm doing it everywhere that I put concealer. And yes, it can look like this. This also helps with if you're using an eyeshadow that likes to fall on your cheeks a lot. It will fall onto the product you put there, and then you can dust it away whenever you're done, and the product won't be on your foundation. So after you have baked, leave it in the oven. We're gonna move on to contour. Now, this is a judge-free zone. This is my contour. She's broken, and it used to be a highlight and contour kit, and then the highlighter fell out and I couldn't save her. So this is all I have left. You're gonna wanna use a fluffy brush or a brush like this. I like to use this because I can get a softer line. So just kind of dip in there, tap off the excess, and then go for it. Contouring is very like personal preference. Some people like to completely sculpt their face. Some people just like to do their cheeks. So like to define your cheekbones and to make yourself look more structured, you would do this is something you can do it as like dark or like extra as you want. This is really the whole thing in general is you do what you think looks best for your face. So for me, this is kind of like the baseline of the contouring that I'm gonna do, because when everything is done, I'll probably go back and intensify it. So the next thing is contouring your forehead. When you are contouring your forehead, you can completely change the shape of your face. So if you have a very large forehead, you can make it kind of smaller. The further down you go, the smaller your forehead will look. The higher up you go, the bigger, you know. It's all about illusions. And I also contour my jaw. You just want to like follow the natural shape of your face. If you have to make weird faces, it's part of it. Accept it, just go for it. Take your time. Start out with a little bit of product and work your way up, because it's very hard to take away a lot of product. It's easier to add than to take away, especially if it's a dark color. Now, I can dust away my baking, and you can also blend out your contour with that same brush. Okay, so blush. So you have powder blush or a cream blush. I tend to go for the cream, but today I'm gonna go powder. And I just use a big fluffy brush, and I never know the placement of blush, but I kind of started doing it like right here, which is where I'm pretty sure it is. I've tried kind of like keeping it as light as possible, because when I get very hot very easily, and when I get hot, the rest of my face like looks so red anyway, so most of the time I'm already naturally flushed. But something I've started to like doing is putting blush on my nose. I learned it from TikTok. I don't know, I think it looks kind of cute. Makes you look like you just like got a burst of fresh air or something. Highlighter is a big deal. I do my highlighter in 2 phases, now and then at the very end, which is where you can make it pop. See? And then down the bridge of your nose, your cupid's bow, and then your forehead above your eyebrow. The most important parts of highlight to me are the cupid's bow and then my favorite, tip of the nose. So the next step in all of this for me is my eyebrows. Some people, they would move on straight to the eyes. For me, it's the eyebrows, because once the eyes are done, the eyebrows will get darker. So this is more of a been doing this for quite a long time, and I have figured out just like kind of how to just do it. I don't know how to teach someone to do it, but I think if I go slow enough, I can kind of just like show you how I do it, and hopefully you follow along. So I will show you the products that I use. I use a NYX pencil. There are retractable pencils, there are sharpen pencils, there are brow mascaras. I use the retractable pencil. I use the pencil, a brow mascara, a brow powder, which this is literally an eyeshadow that I ripped out of an eyeshadow palette and use with this, and it helps me kind of make my eyebrows look a little bit more fluffy. And I use a clear brow gel. This stuff is amazing. So it won't focus, but hopefully you can kind of get the gist of it. So I brush my brows out. I also do one at a time. Everyone does their brows one at a time. Let me give you a lesson. Let's have a lesson.
So let's talk about it. So where the edge of your nostril is should be where the beginning of your brow starts. So here. And then where the end of your brow is should be about at the edge of your eye. So it would stop about here. The arch of your eyebrow should be right about where like this part of your eye is. I don't remember what that's called. It's like the ring where it meets the white. So like that's where your arch should be. So dun, dun, dun.
The closer in you go with your eyebrows, the smaller your nose will look, and the further out you go, the bigger your nose will look. Like I tend to go in pretty far because I'm not a fan of my nose. Don't get too carried away because you don't want to make yourself have a unibrow. So, unless you're into that. Some people can pull it off, Rita. Sounded like I said Rita. I really said Frida, like, you know, Frida Kahlo. I kind of create the shape that I want, which is kind of a more straight brow rather than a high arch. And then I kind of feather out the tail, and then I'll go in and fill in the parts that need to be filled in. And then brushing as you go will help you see like where the hairs are gonna lay and if the shape looks right with how your hairs lay, if that makes sense. And then you do the same for the second. Okay, so the pencil part is over. And now I will move on to brow mascara. It gives it the illusion that there's extra hairs. So I pretty generously wipe off the brush because it can get really dark really quick. And this shade is a little too dark for me. So I just kind of lightly go over them. Oops, I went too dark. Flip. Okay, so after the brow mascara, I go in with powder. This seems so like over the top. I do this every day. Kind of wiggle it into the spots that I think need to be more full. And it kind of helps them look a little bit more fluffy and like full and like, see, I can tell the difference. I don't know if you can. I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope I am. Yeah, so that's my very extensive eyebrow routine. I don't expect anybody to go that extreme on their eyebrows. But once that's all done, I go in and I set it and make sure it stays in place. Let's move on to eyes. So I'm gonna make this as simple and uncomplicated as possible, but these colors are very easy to find in pretty much any palette you use. And also, you don't even have to have eyeshadow. Sometimes you can use bronzer, or you can use blush or highlighter, or you don't even have to use eyeshadow. Sometimes it is completely optional. Yeah, so I'm gonna go in with a really light color and highlight my brow bone first and foremost. That's not a part of my brow routine, I promise. But this gives the eyebrow a lifted look. And then with the same color, pack it all over the lid. And this is going to help you with blending, and it kind of makes the colors a little bit more vibrant. I'm going in with this like little, what shade? It's like a really light brown, and I'm gonna put that on my outer corner. And kind of blend it up into my crease. So what I just did was I took the color very lightly and then tapped it off so it wasn't super heavy, because like I said, it's easier to add more than to take away. What I did was I kind of dragged it on my lid, and then I went up a little bit, kind of in the shape of a V. So, kind of in the shape of a V, and then move up just a little bit, very light-handed. And then for me, I kind of pull it out a little bit, and then pull it back in. So you're kind of keeping it all at the very outer corner of your eye. Blending is key, and going in with a very light hand, a very light amount of product is the most important. So I did that eye. Light hand, a little bit of product, sweep it on the eye, go above it into the crease, and then kind of take it up a little bit and blend it. And if it doesn't look as dark as the other side, add more. Sometimes you kind of have to even out both sides. And it looks pretty even. Even I have trouble with this. So with that same color I put there, I'll go on my under eye. Mostly stay in the middle. If you put the concentration of the color kind of in the middle, it'll give the illusion that your eye is a little bit more open. I have to do that because if I wear eyeliner, my eyes look really small and closed. But you don't want to go too far in, because then your eyes will kind of tilt down a little bit. After that, you can go in with just a little bit darker of a color. I'm going to go in with like a kind of a deep purple color, and then kind of deepen the crease so it looks a little bit darker. Don't worry, I'm gonna blend. I just want to make sure the colors look about the same. Okay, with a bigger blending brush, which I guess it doesn't really matter what blending brushes you use, but I'm just telling you, I'll go in and kind of blend it out just a little bit. When you're blending, you want to be as light-handed as possible. And then with that purple color, I'm going only in the middle. Because not only does that make your eye look a little bit more open, it also gives your bottom lashes more, it makes them look more full. I think Marilyn Monroe did that with her makeup, except she would put like a dot with eyeliner. I'm gonna add a little bit of like glitter. My eyebrow's itching, that's not good. But I'm gonna use what I use as highlighter. So this is called Afterglow by Makeup Geek. I won this in a giveaway like a really long time ago, and it's so like iridescent. I don't know what I want to apply it with. I guess I could use a Q-tip. See if that works. I've never done this before. I'm literally just winging it. Oh. Oh, that worked. Did not expect that. That's new. I wonder if it blends. I'm not going to attempt that today. Okay, so here's the part of the video where you pray for me, because we're about to move on to eyeliner. If you mess up, you know, we have makeup wipes for these things, but it just sucks because then you either have to redo your eyeshadow, redo the concealer and foundation you put down, the highlighter, the contour. Sometimes it's a whole ordeal, and it's really frustrating. This is also one of those things I don't know how to explain it to you. It's kind of one of those things where you just kind of watch and see if you can recreate it, because I don't know how to explain. The product that I use is Maybelline Hyper Easy Brush Tip, and it's proven to be really good so far. It's just my skill level, it's not the best. First, what I do is I create a line. And I determine if that's the shape that I want. It looks pretty good. Yeah, I think I can do that. And then I'm gonna do it again on this side so that I can kind of that looks really even. Okay. So you know what? It's okay. It's okay. It's totally okay. We're totally fine. We're totally fine. We're vibing. I'm more nervous about the fact I have really shaky hands. So after that, I will go in kind of like this and kind of, I don't know how to explain this. Like, kind of just have to wing it. That was really funny. This is where you're gonna determine how thick you want it. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know how thick I want mine to be, so I'm kind of struggling. I have to blink, okay. And then from there you can. All right, okay. All right, okay, okay. All right. And then from there, I think they call it tight lining. I just touch the root of my eyelashes and pull. wow. Oh, the nerves. The only thing I don't like about this eyeliner is sometimes it gets really dry and then all of a sudden it's like leaking, which is really annoying. Because if I'm like trying to fix something, I feel like I'm fixing it and then all of a sudden it like floods and then I can't fix it. So I don't necessarily recommend this eyeliner, but at the same time it's really good. So it might be really good for you, I don't know. Okay, all right, so I went ahead and I did this eye off camera because I messed up and had to redo my entire eye. It looks pretty similar. I might need to darken it up a little bit to get them to even out, but also just to make them more intense in a minute. But now we're gonna move on to mascara. On a typical day, I wear the Bambi mascara from Maybelline, L'Oreal. And normally I use black mascara, but I accidentally bought brownish black, and believe it or not, I like brownish black a lot better. But since these are black lashes, I'm gonna go ahead and use black mascara. I don't know if it's just me or if anybody else has this problem, but my bottom lashes get tangled. They lay weird. They're not like out. They lay like cross-eyed and crooked, but these lay completely down. So I don't know what that's about. Could just leave it at this. My eyelashes are pretty long, not to brag, but I'm gonna put on false lashes. So let's get to it. Grab yourself a pair of tweezers and then your glue. You want to get like every edge of your eyelashes, so it needs to touch like the whole thing, so that way it adheres to your eye better and it doesn't poke you and feel ticklish and all that. And then you want to wait about 30 seconds for the glue to get tacky before you put it on. Some eyelashes are like the length of your eye and you want to trim them down to fit your eye shape. These are really short because I like to put them on the edge, but personal preference. I watched Zootopia for the first time today. That was such a good movie. I 100% cried in the beginning. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm known for crying in Disney movies, but for some reason that movie just got me. I think that might be one of my favorites now. And I have Shakira stuck in my head, so that's cool too. So I think it's ready. So, I don't know how to explain this. Basically, you just kind of follow where your eye shape is and place it at the root of your lashes, and then didn't explain that and at all, so you're welcome. I'm such a good teacher. I look out all the cosmetologists. I'm taking your job. I don't want to freak everybody out, but I am notorious for using pin needles to get in my lashes and separate them, because I saw a video about Audrey Hepburn. She used to do it, and I also watched a video about Judy Garland. She used to do it, and I was like, maybe they're onto something, and so I did it one time, and it's addicting. So I've poked my eyeball about 3 times total with it, and it never gets easier. I've never bled, but oh my god, it hurts. There's a lot of like old makeup trends that like, to me, have proven to be very effective, and going through your lashes and like combing them out, honestly, to me, is one of the most effective because it makes your lashes more like full, and I love the look of that. Like, that's my favorite. Natural full lashes are so pretty, and I'm blessed to have that, but I have a problem with if there's an eyelash that's just not sitting right with me, I'll yank that sucker out. Alright, so we got her on there, and then to kind of like blend it in a little bit, take some mascara and kind of go along the edge, and then kind of, yeah, very self-explanatory. But yeah, so there's the eyes, and then like I said, my eyebrows will inevitably get darker. So now is the final bit of highlight. I'll take this brush. And then tip of the nose, always. A lip color. I think in the picture I did red, but I'm thinking we'll just do like a nude kind of pink because I feel like that will look really cute. A sample size of NARS lipstick in Tolid? I have no idea. Yesterday I learned that vintage lipsticks used to be this small. And it's just a part of their thing. You could use lip liner. I don't like lip liner. Because I don't wear lipstick, hardly ever. You're getting like a special treat here, because I'm a lip balm, lip gloss kind of person. You know, fluff up your hair, live for it. Although I kind of liked it back. We'll leave it. We'll leave it alone. All right, anyway, that's it. I hope that this was informative and helpful to you. Let's see what it looks like with lip gloss. Please ignore my dirty rag. Let's see what it looks like with gloss. There we go. In my opinion, that looks better. But I'm like into the whole clip thing lately. All right.